Hi, I'm Paul Seal from CodeShare.co.uk. Welcome to the 10th episode in this series where I show you how to build a website with Umbraco 13. In this episode, we're going to look at building a contact form. We're going to see how to use view components, how to build an HTML form, how to post that form to a Surface controller, how to use app settings and configuration for things like the email settings, and then how to test the emails using a program called Papercut. So let's get into this episode then. So first of all, we need to have a look at what we currently have. So if we go back into our website, we have got a contact form at the bottom of here. And it just says contact me here. And if you remember in our Visual Studio on the homepage template, we've got this partial being rendered as contact. So the first thing to do is we want to be able to add this form to any page, just this contact form for this example. So what we can do is we can go in and we can create a component for that contact form. So we don't necessarily want to, we're not using Umbraco forms or anything like that. This is going to be a MVC form. So let's go in and I'll show you what I mean by an MVC form. So on this site that we've already done, we've got document type, components, block grid, content models, and we've got a form defined. And that's just literally just called form. You could call it contact form, you could do what you want, but for now we'll just call it form. So let's start with that. So we're going to create a document type for that form. So we're going to settings, document types, components, block grid, content models, create a new one, and it's going to be an element type, and we'll call it form. And then what do we use on there? Hover over that, WP forms. Okay, let's have a look at that. We should have that available. And we do. So that's the block that we're going to use, and we're going to add it to the grid. So now we can go to our data types, custom, block grid main content, and we'll add a form. Components, block grid, content models, form. We'll allow it in the root. We don't need a settings model. Areas, advanced. The custom view, we can do the block preview. The custom style sheet, we can do the CSS that we've got there. And we can add a custom thumbnail as well. So let's just have a look, see what thumbnail we used on this one. So if we go into here, go to data types, custom. I'll just put this up on my other screen while I do this. And the form one, there it is. Advanced, so it's form-contact. So app plugins, block icons, and then we look for form-contact. There we go, submit that, and then we have it. We've got a form block. So we didn't do much configuration there, and already we've got that. So if we go into here now, onto home, and then we click on add content, and we do a form, then we'll save and publish. So hopefully that will give us a preview of that one. The problem is we don't have, if we go to the front end and have a look, we don't have anything to preview because it's failing to get that item. So we need to go in on Visual Studio and we need to go to our folder where we've got our components and we need to create one for form. So I'm just going to copy rich text and I'm going to rename it to form and I'm going to go into that. Now before I do that, I just need to rebuild the models. So go to settings, title menu, models builder, generate models. And then I'm just going to build solution. So that means then that I should get IntelliSense over here when I do form, contact models.form. It's not lit up yet, but it will do. We don't need that to have any of this, so we can start fresh with this. Still doesn't like that actually, but we'll give it a go in a moment. So if you remember, we on the home page we were rendering that partial for the contact form like this. So if we go to that partial view, contact, and then we just cut that, copy that from here and put it into form and paste that there. So that's our first test. Does that work? So if we just get that running again, if we still don't get the IntelliSense on our form, we can close the file and then we can open it again, and there you have it, the IntelliSense is back. So yeah, we've run the site again, so let's go into this and let's go to the content page, the home page, click on this, and there we have it. We've got two contact forms, one because we've got it rendering on the main template, and two because we've got it rendering in the grid. So I'm just going to delete the one from the homepage template and then reload, and then we have still just got one. So that's good. That's working on the front end in terms of a static form that doesn't do anything. Let's have a look in the back end and see if the form preview works. So the form is previewing, but the icon isn't working there. And one thing we can have a look at is see, right, so we're using, and let's go into the code. So for that star, we're using the font awesome icon star. Now we have already defined that somewhere in the title, I think. Where was it? Yeah, we had it in the title. I think we had it in the title preview. So if we go into here, go to app plugins actually, block grid previews, and we do title. We can copy that SVG that we already had. So we probably can copy that whole row and then go into our form and then paste it over that and then save that. Now look at it in the back office. No. Do I need to hot reload, rerun it again? Just give that a whirl, see if that works. No, it doesn't like it. Maybe it's coming in as white, so it might be that we have to. I'm just going to copy it in from the one that I've got over here. I'm just going to paste it in. You can get this from the video notes, so don't worry, you can just copy and paste that in. And I think what this might have is this might have some attributes that's sorting out the fill color as well. So we'll just wait and see. On the home page, yeah, there we go, we've got that star. Not that it's that important, but anyway, it looks nice on the preview now. And then if we go to the front end and have a look, it should still render with that star, so that's great. And the reason why we weren't just using the font awesome icon is because in the back office it doesn't render with that star like that. So that's the first part of this. We got it to render that in there. So in our code block, currently we have the form.cshtml component, and that looks like this. So let's just go through and see what we need to actually replace. So we've got our divider there and our line, and then down here we have our actual form. So what we want to do is we want to take this form and we want to cut it out of here and we want to put it somewhere else. So we're going to cut this, Control X, and then what I want to do is I want to do await component dot invoke async, and then we'll say contact. So this is where we're going to call a view component to render the contact view component. And where we put the view is in views, partials, views, shared components. So in the views folder, now in a new folder called shared, and then in a new folder called components, and another folder called contact. And then in there, we're going to have this file. So I'm going to make a copy of it. Let me just go into the one that I've got here as the example. Yeah. So I'm just going to grab a copy of this one just for now. Just control and drag, just so we've got that there. And I'm going to rename this to default, because with view component, the way it works is that the file, it expects to find a file called default.cshtml within that folder, and unless you change the name intentionally, but we don't need to change the name on this one. So in this file, we want to paste in the form that we had. So we'll just make sure we're in that file by double clicking on it, and then we'll just paste in that form just so that we've got our starting point there. We can get rid of all this, so we don't need these notes here. Right, so we've got that to be the form. We can sort this out in a moment, but we need to create ourselves a component. We need a view component, so it's in a components folder. So up here, we just collapse this and we go add folder, right click, add folder components. And then in that, we want to add a new class, and we'll call this contact view component. Now, when you're creating a view component, one thing to know is that this first part here is the name of it by default. And so when we are rendering it on this bit here, and we're saying invoke that view component called contact, just by creating something that ends with view component and that inherits, I think it's view component. Oh no, just view component. And then if it's not got that namespace, you can just do control dot and it knows. Right, so by doing this, it knows that it's called this. But one other thing you can do as well, you can define the view component name with an attribute. So we can do it like this, name equals contact. And then inside here, we want to do a public view component result, and then invoke. So this is the method that we were calling. So contact view model. So we're going to pass in a view model, which we haven't created yet, but we will do. And then we'll say return view. And then we'll pass in a model of the type contact view model. So basically, model. Now this is a nice operator here. So it says if basically if the model is equal to null, then we'll create a new contact view model. I don't know what this is called. All right, but that operator, but I found it very useful when I was doing some refactoring, and it suggested that. So it's a nice shorthand, basically. If the model's null, then set it to be equal to this, to a new contact view model. So we've got that set up. Now we need to create ourselves a view model. Now the reason we need this is so when we're working with MVC and we're doing a form like this, we have a model which we're going to create. So it's going to be called contact view model. That is where the data is passed into this, put into this model within the view. That's the model and the view. and then that model gets passed to the controller. So model view controller, and that's how it works. And then on the controller, which will be called a surface controller, that is where it decides what to do, where to route this through. So we'll get to that bit soon, but for now we're just going to create the contact view model. So we're going to here and we'll just do add a new folder, models. Oh, we've already got, what am I doing? Just delete that folder. I'll do it in here. So add folder, view models, and then we'll do add class contact view model. So now that if we do control dot, we can set that to know about the namespace. So that will make that one happy for us. So now when this renders the view, the default view, it will pass in that model. So it'll expect that model. So what we need to do is we need to set the default to say at inherits umbraco.cms.web.common.views.umbraco view page, and then we'll say contact view model. Now this isn't liking the IntelliSense, so I'm going to close it and then reopening it. There we go. And we don't know about that, so we want to do a using on that. I think if we do control dot, it will say using those. And again, I'm going to annoy James by putting this one above it. So now it's aware of that. Let's just see if I delete this, does it still know about the Umbraco view page? And it looks like it does. So we don't even need that namespace at the front, because I think that might already exist in this. Yeah, Umbraco CMS web.common.views. So we don't even need that. We could clean up all of our partials to remove that namespace from the front of those. So at this point now we've got our contact form. It's getting passed to there. We should, let's just test it out. We should be able to run this again and it should still render what we had before with that title part up here, contact me, etc. And then contact gets rendered. So this part here will be populated with what is in here, which is literally what we cut anyway, and we pasted in. So let's go into the page. Let's let it refresh. Let's give it a moment, let it load up. Right, so it's loading now. So if we go back into here, so on the back office preview, it doesn't seem to like it. Did I rebuild the solution? I think I did. Maybe I've done something wrong, but again, this is what we're here for. We're here to learn and see what mistakes I've made. So it looks like I didn't make a mistake. Nice one. I'll take that. Take that all day long. So yeah, I didn't make a mistake. It's still there. So just to check, let's just make sure that actually this is all working. So we've got the view component. It's created a new contact view model. That is then returning the view, passing in that model, and then that is going into here. So let's just test that this is working. So where it says enter your name in the placeholder, actually that says full name. Yeah, that's full name, but that says enter your name, which makes me think that it's not working. This could be wrong. Let's go back through it. Partials, block grid, components, form. Let's just put something in here saying testing. Cut that, paste that. Okay. Right, so testing is coming in there. So that is working. It's always good to test these things. And then we've got contact. So let's see what happens in here. Another test. Yeah, that's pulling in that. And then right, so we've got the label for full name. We'll just put test. Okay, yeah, it's all working then. So now we get to this point where we've got our form. Now what we want to do is we want to create the model in order to be able to pass it into to use it for this form. So a form, when we do this type of thing, we want to create a C# model which will hold the values that people fill in on the form for the inputs, and then it will bring it back and it will pass it to the Surface controller. So in order to do that, we need to create those properties on the contact view model. So let's go into our contact view model. So currently it's just public class contact view model. So now we want to do a public string name, and we can say it's nullable. So you don't necessarily have to set a value on that one. So we'll say public string name get and set. We'll say public string question mark again email get and set. Public string phone. It wants to write the same thing, but it'll just take the number off. And then public string message. I'll just accept that and just update it to message. And then finally, we'll do a public bool consent get set as well. So that will be our checkbox to say you consent to storing the data, etc. So above all these, we need to add some attributes. So the attributes are display, name equals full name, and then required, and then we'll say error message equals you must enter your name. So this attribute is basically one called a required one. So the display is used for the label, and a required is used for the error. If you didn't fill it in, then it will do that. And then we will create another one. So I'm just going to copy these two, paste them below. So this one is now email address. You must enter your email address. And then we'll do another one, which is validation for an email address. So another attribute, and we'll say error message. You must enter a valid email address. So that's got some automatic validation based on it looking like a real email address or not. And then we'll do one for phone, and this one we don't need to enforce with a required. So phone number. And then we've got one for message. And we do want that one to be required. So message, you must enter a message, your message. And then finally, we've got this one, which is the consent. So the label for the consent will look like this. Yes, I give permission to store and process my data. And we make this one required. You must give consent to us storing your details before you can create an account or before you can send us a message. There we go. And then finally, we want to create another attribute that says, all right, so this has got a value, and actually the value needs to be true. So it must be true. So we'll say must be true. And we don't have that. So we'll have to create a custom attribute. We'll put the error message like we have with the others and say you must give consent. We'll just copy that. So if the value isn't true, then it's going to come up with the same error as the required one. And so how do we do that? So we create a custom validation attribute. So we need to create this under a validation namespace, validation folder there, and then we call this, so we say add class, and then this is validation attributes class. And this is public class must be true, and it's a validation attribute. And then we say public override. So we're overriding the one that came with, when we inherited from this, it comes with a is valid check. And so we're overriding that. And what we want to do is we want to say return value is not null and value is a type of Boolean if it is and it's true, then that's going to return true. Okay, and then what we need to do is set an attribute on top of this called attribute usage. So we say attribute targets dot property and allow multiple equals false and inherited is false. Okay, now we have that. We need to just use the namespace for it. Now we can build solution. Hopefully we don't get any errors. So that's our model set up. Now that we've got the model set up, we need to go in and we need to create the form. So currently we've got some fields that and the form that came from the template. Now we want to make it more Umbraco-y. So instead of the form tag, we do an at using, and we can do, because we are, actually it's not an at using, it's like this. We can delete the closing form tag. So in here, we can just say using, and then open brackets, HTML dot begin Umbraco form, and using a contact surface controller, which we haven't created yet, but we will. We're going to call the submit method with a method type of post, and we want it to have an attribute of a class which says text left, so we want the text to go left, and we also want the form to have a role equals form. and we close those attributes off, and then we put that in squiggly brackets, curly braces, whatever you want to call it. Okay, so now we don't have a contact surface controller, so we better go and create one of those. So this is the thing that will receive the model. So the way we do that now is we go to add folder controllers, and we do add another folder, and inside that we'll do surface, and then we do add class, and we'll call it a contact surface controller. And now we've got that, we can do control dot on here using that surface controller, and then it'll say it's not actually it's saying it's not a Umbraco surface controller. So what we need to do is we need to tell it to inherit from surface controller. Now we need to implement this. Show potential fixes, generate constructor, and what this will do is this will create the required constructor for a surface controller. So let's have a look what it's added. So it's added the Umbraco context accessor. It's added a database factory. It's added the services, service context, application caches, profiling logger, publish URL provider. So they're all the ones that it needs in order to satisfy the contract of inheriting from a surface controller. So it brings these in and then it passes them to the base class, which is the surface controller base class. So then within here, private, what we want to do is we want to send in some things. So one of those is an email sender, and we also want to do some logging as well. So we can do private, we'll set some private fields, private read-only email sender, and that comes, so that is a Microsoft thing, and we'll put underscore there. And then actually what I didn't do is I didn't put the word class. Oh no, I have got a class. Sorry, I need to take these out of here and put these above the constructor. Sorry about that. Getting mixed up with primary constructors and other constructors. We'll turn this into a primary constructor later, but for now we'll just start with the simple way of doing it. So we'll have a read-only one of those. And so in here we'll do control dot, and then I thought it was going to give me a chance to add it in here, but so with our constructor we want to basically inject the email sender and set this to that one, and inject the context. Is that the context accessor? No, I didn't mean to do that. I meant to do ilogger of contact surface controller, like that. And then we'll set these two. So we'll do email sender, and we'll call it that. And we'll do ilogger of type contact surface controller, and then we'll call that logger. Then what we can do in here, we can do email sender equals sender and logger equals that. So now when this controller gets initiated, it's going to pass in that one to there and that one to there. So we'll be able to use those in our method. And then what we want to do is we want, because we were creating the form here and we were saying use the submit method, we'll need a submit method on here. So we create public async task action result called submit, and that expects a contact view model, and then we'll call that model. So it's saying submit the form and I'm looking for the contact view model. And in this we want to say if the model state isn't valid, then we want you to return the current Umbraco page, and that will basically show the error messages. If it's not valid, then I'm not interested. Show the error messages. If it is valid, then we go into the next stage, and this is where we try and send a message. Now, in order to send a message, we'll need to be able to use the email sender. So we'll just make a start here, but you'll see that we could actually do with putting some things in configuration. So we'll do a try catch. So in C# we've got a try and a catch block like this, and we just catch the exception. So with I'm not going to teach you about C#. Hopefully you've got some background knowledge on C#. But so we'll do var subject. So for our email message that we're going to send, remember someone's submitting this form and we're going to send a message. So we say string.format inquiry from, and then we're going to use curly braces, and so we'll say the first parameter and then the second parameter. And we say the first parameter comes from the model and we're using the name. Second parameter comes from the email, the model, and it's the email. So when this form gets submitted, we'll be able to create a string that goes inquiry from whatever the first name value is dash whatever the second name, whatever the email is. So that will be our subject. Then the email message object message, which the email sender expects, equals new, and then we'll save. Now we need to put in the from address, so test@example.com, and then here we need to do the to address, so to test@example.com. Then we want to pass in the subject and the message, and obviously the message comes from the form body as well. So the subject was created above, but the message itself, model.message, like that. And then finally, is the body HTML? And in this case, no, it's not. We don't need to worry about it being an HTML body on that email, but you can if you want to. And then once we've created this, we call a method that says await email sender dot send async. Now on my example I've got send async, but on this it says send email async, so I'm hoping that this will still work. So I'll put in message and then email type is contact. Now it looks to me like we're using the wrong one, so I'm just going to hover over this. So email sender is coming from umbracocms.core.mail, and this email sender is coming from the Microsoft one. So we need to delete that where it's got that UI services, and then we need to hover over it and we need to let it suggest a potential fix, and we need to use this one, Umbraco CMS core.mail. So that's where we've gone wrong there. And now what I can do is I can remove that word email and do send async. So now we're using the correct version of this. So you might have had that error as well. And when that is successful, what we'll do is we'll just add something to the temp data, which is another MVC thing. And we'll just say contact success. So we'll set a value in the temp data with a key of contact success and the value to be true. And then in here, if it didn't send properly, we will logger.log error, and we will say pass in the exception, and then we will just say contact form submission error. But we want it to fail gracefully, so we're not going to throw that error up. We're just going to pass in some information to temp data to say contact success was false, and that way we can read this on the view and display a different message if it failed. And then what we can do is we can do return redirect to current Umbraco page. Now we've got our controller. We can go back to our default view here. Now this is happy because it's got a surface controller that's got the relevant submit method, and it should be happy. Now what we haven't done is we haven't configured the fields yet. Now what we can do at the top here as well is we can put this in to say if the form's been submitted yet. So bool submitted will depend, we'll do bool.try parse, and then we'll say try and get this from the temp data. So the contact success key, try and parse the value of this as a bool. So if you can get a value from it, great. If you can't get a value from it, get an empty string, and then try and parse this into being a bool. There we go. If that was all possible, then submitted will be true. So in here, what we can actually do is we can say if submitted, then do something else, do another thing. Right, so at the top here, what we're going to say is, well, if it was submitted, just do some HTML and we'll just put a message out. I'm just putting some bootstrap classes here, col 12 text center. So if it's been submitted, then I want to say if that has been successful, if success, then what we can do is we can say, all right, we'll just render a message out just saying something along the lines of, we'll get it from the dictionary. We'll say umbraco.get dictionary value or default. So if you've not put anything in the dictionary for this, it will fall back to the default. So contact form dot success message. And then if it's not there, then we'll just put the message in that we want to say. Thank you for your email. We will be in touch shortly. And then in the else, we'll grab that same message. We'll change this to be error instead of success. And then we'll say there was a problem when submitting there was a problem when submitting the form. Please try again later. Right, so now we're saying check that temp data that we set from the thing and work out if it got submitted, and if it did get submitted, work out if it was successful or not. So down here, let's just have a look. This is the bit where we've got our button. What we want to do is we want to actually delete this part, and we want to just create this. So div class equals form dash group. And then in here, we'll put our button. We'll say class equals button, and it's the primary coloring for that button. It's a button that is a block style and a button that is a large. Then we'll say type is a submit button, and the text, we want it to just say register. Again, you could put that in the dictionary. Okay, so we have our button, and then let's just go through and just update the fields. So this part can stay. This, we want to just put an ASP4 attribute, and that changes it to be using ASP.NET Core way of doing models. So that changes it from being an input tag to being a tag helper. And then we'll just say model.name. And this is similar to when we used to do at HTML.input4 or textbox4, I think it was, in the old version of ASP.NET. So now we do type. We've already got the type equals text. We've got the class of form control. We've got the placeholder. I'll just put the same as I've got over here. Now we don't need this data SB validations because we're not using the JavaScript way of doing the form that came with the template. Now again, we'll do ASP4 equals model.name again at model.name, and then we won't put any text in there. So this is the label like that, ASP4 equals that. And then here, instead of this div, we just want to do a span with a ASP validation 4 equals at model.name. See, these are all for model.name. Class equals, and then we'll do text danger. So that should make the text come up red. And then, so input is that, label is that. Now remember, we created a display attribute, and that's what will be rendered in the label. So let's copy this and do the same for email. Just replace email name with email, and we will just put in the placeholder email address. You could be clever about the value for that. For now, I'm just leaving it hard coded. You could put it in the dictionary. You could see if you can try and get it from the property, but for now, for quickness, we're just doing it this way. Again, let's copy this and let's do one for phone. ASP4 equals model.phone. The type is text, the form control, and then the placeholder is phone number. And we don't have an ARIA label, so let's add this on. So ARIA-label above here equals name, and then we'll do one here as well. call that email, and then we'll do one here for phone. And then we'll copy it another time and do the message. And instead of, oh, yeah, and then we will say input ASP4, and then we'll just do model.message. There we go. And just make sure that we've updated all of these. So we've got name, 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 email, 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 phone, 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 message, message, message. Okay, text danger. Message, message, message. Placeholder is message. And same with the ARIA label. Okay. And then we'll just delete that. And then at the bottom, we need to do the checkbox. Now I'm going to copy this from the other one. This will be in the linked post. It's just because there's quite a bit to it, but basically it's another input, ASP4, model.consent. It's form check input, its type is checkbox. Then we do the label, and then we say, I agree to the privacy policy, and we'll link off to that. And then we do the validation for as well. So that gives us everything else in that form. So we do save all, and we'll rebuild the solution. So now we've built the model, we've built the controller, we've got our view, which is this one here. So we've got a model, we've got a view, we've got a controller, we've got most things that we need. Let's just see what happens. So we should be able to test this out now. Fingers crossed anyway. I say should be able to, but you never know. And even if there's errors, let's attack those errors head on. So first error is can't connect. Come on, let's have you. I like to reload the back office. For some reason that sort of, in my head, it's like when you don't look at the PlayStation when you were a kid because you don't want it to know that you care about it loading, so you're looking away. Feel a bit like that when I'm waiting for these pages. So yeah, the back office is loaded. There we go, front end's loaded as well. And the form's there, so let's have a look. So we'll do Paul at test.com 01234567890. This is their message. Tick that, register. So what does it say? Thank you for your email, we'll be in touch shortly. So in theory, that worked. Did it send? Doesn't look like it sent. Why didn't it send? And I think the reason why it didn't send is because we haven't configured the SMTP settings for a start. So to configure the SMTP settings, in our app settings file, we've got Umbraco, CMS, and then global. And then in here, we can configure SMTP. Now you could do that in this file, you could do that in your development one, you could do that in your user secrets if you wanted as well. Actually, let's do that in the user secrets. That's pretty cool. So save that. We'll do it in user secrets. So if we go into here, right click, and we do manage user secrets, then what it gives us, I'll show you in here at the bottom of our CS proj file. It's got a user secrets ID, and that puts this file here on our file system under our username app data, roaming, Microsoft, user secrets, and then it's this GUID. So that's where the file lives. And that way for this, other people on the same project will have a file called that created for them when they manage user secrets, and they'll be able to put their secret values in there. So if we go in here, it just means that it can be specific to that user without having to commit it to source control as well. So some secrets you just don't want to commit to source control. So we've got our Umbraco CMS global, and we just want to set the SMTP settings. So we can put that in here, so SMTP. And then actually, we're not getting the IntelliSense, but I know what the values are. So we'll do this, and then we'll say host. I want it to be equal to 127.0.0.1. So that means it's localhost. That means it's on your current machine. I want it to come through via port 25. I want the username to be empty because I don't need to set it at this point. I want the password to be empty as well. And I want to set the from address to be from at example.com. So now that's our user secrets. We should be able to actually I'll just wait for that to stop, and then I will rebuild and start again. I want to start the site up again. So now we've set those SMTP settings. I will start the site up again. And then we'll go back to here and we'll load it up in the back office. And while we wait for that, I'll just mention that there's another bit of app settings that we need to configure, and there's a class we need to do for the config. So over here, we've got from example.com and to example.com. So we've got some email settings, and these are represented in this class, email settings, and here with these host, port, from, and to, etc. So just let this wake up. Okay, let's try the form again. So I don't know if I've mentioned this Papercut, but you see there's a link here that goes off to Papercut, and you can install Papercut yourself. There's details on how to download the exe for the installer. And then basically you get the program like what I've got here, and you can then intercept the messages that are coming through to localhost and show it in here, see what it looks like. So let's see if we can submit the form. Just reload the page. Here we go. So Paul at test, message, this is the message, agree, register, and then here we go. We got the message, it came through. And do another test. Scroll down, do another one. Paul at test. Right, let's register that, and let's go to here. This is the message again, thank you. So it's working, this is great. So we've got a working contact form that's sending a message, and then there's a bit of extra configuration we can do. So where we have this in here, we might want to put in the app settings a section called freelancer config, and this section we're going to define it in the actual main app settings this time rather than in our secret one. And in there, I'm just going to bring that up over here. So freelancer, actually I'll just call it freelancer. And then we'll create the object. So it's at the end of our app settings JSON file, and then we're going to put in email settings. And then we just actually need two settings on this. So we're going to have a from, and that will be from at example.com. So this will be whatever your allowed from email address will be. And your to address, I'm going to just do to at example.com. So that is our email settings in the config. And then we want to create ourselves a model to look after this configuration in C#. So we'll put this inside a configuration folder, add folder configuration, and then we do add class, freelancer config. And then this class will have a public email settings that can be null, and call it email settings. It will also have, and that will be a class of its own, which we will just do below here. So you can have multiple classes in the same file. And for things like this, why not put it in the same file? It's only relevant to this anyway. Public string, and then we'll do from get and set, and then we'll do another public string to get and set. So if we have a look at our app settings, we've got a from and a to, and it's on the email settings. So that's the email settings property, and that is part of freelancer. So we can create a section name in this top bit here. So public const string section name equals freelancer, and set that. And then what we do to set this, to make it be when this program starts up, the configuration gets set over here in our, after the build runs, we want to do builder.services.configure, and then we say configure this to set the freelance config class, and we say builder.configuration.getSection, and then we tell it the name of the section that we want. So because this was a static property, we can just call it straight away on there. So this will now, when the program starts, it will set the freelancer config class, and it will give us it will configure that service to have that config available for us, and it will set it to the section which has got the name, which is in here, which is freelancer. So if we have a look, you'll see then we've got that here, freelancer. And when we have that, we will then be able to use that in our contact surface controller. So if we have a look in here, instead of hard coding the from and the to, we can inject it in at the top here. So we can say private read-only freelancer config underscore freelancer config equal, and then in here we can do comma, and we can do freelancer config there, and in this bit we can set it to say that equals that dot value. Oh, it's the I options pattern. That's what I've done wrong. I need to say bring it in as I options, open and close brackets there. So we're using the namespace here, Microsoft extensions options, I options. And just cut that, put it in again. And that will add the namespace up there. And now we can then, when that comes in, we can set this freelance config to be the value of the options pattern of getting that config. So we'll rebuild the solution and we'll have a look. Actually, before we do, we just need to tell it to use those values. So for the from address, we do underscore freelancer config dot question mark dot email settings. So if it's not null, if it's got a property, then get that. And also if that's not null and it's got the from property, then set it to that. And same again for to as well. There we are. So we can just put that on the new line. So we should see then, if we were to rebuild the solution, and then when it's rebuilt, if we then run the site, we should see it all come together. It use the values from the config, start without debugging. Yeah, it will use the values from the config and everything, and then when we see another message in here, the from will be from at example.com and the to will be to at example.com as per the app settings JSON in there. So let's give this a whirl. I'm just going to delete that and that one, so that when we do run the form, there will only be one message in there, and that will be the one. So we'll know for definite that it works. So any minute now. Come on, let's have you. I'm not editing this out. You can have this one. We're near the end now. We don't need to edit this blank space. Just fill it with love and emotions. Right, let's go. Paul, yeah, yeah, yeah. Thank you once more. Tick the box, register. Did we get an error? No, thank you for the email. We're going to be in touch shortly. Thank you once more. Perfect. And from example to example, you get the idea. So that's all of those and a little bit more to do as well, just because I want to be a bit neat and clean up the metadata file. I noticed that the metadata file we didn't finish. But yeah, we've got, well, let's just talk about the contact form. So we've got a working contact form. We can see it all working. It's all wired up using the way of submitting the form to a surface controller. We've got the model, the view, and the surface controller, and it all plays happily anyway. So let's go on to the next part, little bonus bit really, and that is just cleaning up the metadata file. So in the views partials metadata, I realized that we didn't actually do anything with that. We didn't move on and fill that one in. It didn't seem to feature in any of the episodes, so I just want to do that now. So what we can do with the metadata is we can say at inherits Umbraco view page SEO properties. So it's using that class. So what it's saying is anything that calls this will have SEO properties rendered on it. And so what we're saying is if that model is null, so if it doesn't come through, then return. Don't bother, just go. Not interested. And then we've got our meta char set, we've got our meta viewport name, and then we've got our meta description. In here we can do, because we've got that SEO properties, the model is actually the SEO properties, and let's just go into here, have a look at a page. SEO, we've got these properties, meta description and meta title. So we'll do model.meta description, and then we want to put a title on the page as well for the browser title. So this is what goes up here. So instead of it saying freelancer bootstrap theme every time, we'll just cut that, paste that in here, and then what we'll do is we'll put this in. So we'll say at Umbraco dot assigned content item, so that gets the iPublish content, dot get meta title or name, and we don't have one defined, or do we? Model.meta title. Do we have that defined? Let's just check. It doesn't contain a definition for that. iPublish content doesn't. So let's have a look on our extensions class. Publish content extensions? No. So we need to create that. So we'll go into here, we'll go to extensions, publish content extensions, and we'll just create a new one called get meta title or name. So it's a public static string on a static class, meaning we don't have to create an object in order to use this method. So get meta title or name, and with an extension method you always pass with this. So it's saying this will be added onto our published content objects, and then we'll say string meta title. So you can pass one into it if you want to. It's nullable. So if not string dot is null or white space meta title, so if that value's not empty basically, then return meta title. Otherwise though, return publish content dot name. So we'll fall back to the name otherwise. So now that's happy with it, because the reason why it knows about that is because again in the view imports we've got this using freelancer extensions namespace, so it knows about that method now. And then what we want to do after that, so we'll pass in that meta title, and if that's not empty we'll use it, otherwise use the name of the page. And then in here what we're going to do is do the get site name. So did we have an extension for get site name? No, we didn't. So we need to do that as well. So this is just a little bit of cheeky bonus content. You thought you came here just to do a contact form, and now I'm working you hard and getting you to do this metadata. Get site name. So we want to get the site name here, and in order to do that we're doing another content publish content extension method. So for the get site name, we are going to need to find the home page and the site settings. So we're going to create a couple of these. So first of all, what we'll do is we'll get the home page, and you'll see why we need to get the home page. So public static string question mark. Oh, sorry, not a string, it's a home page class. Question mark get home page. And that is going to be attached to this .iPublish content, publish content. So first of all, we want to be able to get the home page, and primarily this will just be used by this method that we're going to create. And we're saying ancestor or self that is of the type home page. There we go. So get home page will be set to that. already exists. We've already created one. Silly, silly me. Bet you were laughing at me because you knew that that was already there. After doing that, we need to get the site settings. Have we already got a site settings? Yes, we have. After doing that, we need to return the site name or not. So actually that first part was pointless, but I'm going to leave it in anyway. Public static string get site, and we make it a question mark, get site name. This, add it to the our published content, and then what we're saying is, right, can you find the home page? So that means we'll just say .get homepage on there. So we can call that get homepage method. Okay. Can you find the homepage? If the homepage is null, then return null. Otherwise, if you found the homepage, then can you find the site settings on the homepage? Okay. If the site settings is null, return null again. Otherwise, return site settings dot site name. And if that's null, then just return null. So that's our get site name. So what that's doing is that's going to be coming in here at the end. So our browser title will have the page name and the site name separated with a pipe. And then one of the last things to do on this, a couple more things to do. We want to do the meta robots. So if you remember, we set these properties here is indexable and is followable. So in here we'll do a meta name equals robots, and then we'll say content equals. Now what we want to do is we want to work out if the value's been set or not. Now we already have access to the value because we're on the SEO properties model. So if it's followable, if that's true, then do follow. Otherwise, no follow. And then we'll do model.indexable. If that's true, index. If it's not true, we'll do no follow. We'll just put commas in here. If it's true, index it. If it's not true, no index. There we go. That will set the robots tag. You might want to double check that it's valid if it's got a comma and no value after it. It may be that it's not valid. You can work out the rest of the logic to fix that. And then you might want to do a fav icon. Close that. Do I want to do a fav icon? Do I have a fav icon? Let's have a look. Assets, fav icon. Yeah, I've got a fav icon. Go on then. Let's set the fav icon. So we'll do link rel equals icon. And then we'll say type equals image x icon. href equals /assets/fav icon. And then we just close that off. So now we've fixed the metadata. We can just run that again. We will reload this. Oh, has it got an error? Let's see. Come on, let's see. It doesn't like it. Did I need to run the site again? Come on, let's have you. Let's have you now. So we'll see what's going on, why it's complaining. Should just load it all up again, should be fine. I'm not expecting any issues, but just while we wait, we're just expecting to see it say the name of the page and then hyphen and then the name of the site. And in the Umbraco back office, let's have a look. There we go. Come on. Okay, home, pull seal. Yeah, perfect. And then if we just view page source, we can see we've got the description. We don't have one set, but we could set one. So if we want a description, I can put a bit of lorem ipsum in there. And if we want a meta title, again, I can just do that. Save and publish. Let's just reload that. Now it says that / pause here. And if we do the view page source, we can see that it's got the description set, the title is saying it can be followed and indexed. And if I was to turn them off, reload that, follow but no index, etc. So yeah, I think that comma's fine because there's always a value. It's either one or the other. And one other thing to do is let's just create a page. So content page, contact. We will just add a standard header, images, and then the content will just create a form, save and publish. Contact me, info, click on that, go to there, and we've got the form. There we go, agree to the policy. Thank you for your email. Let's have a look. Yay, it all worked. So I think that is a good place to end this episode. If you like the video, please click on like, subscribe to the channel, share it with others, let them know what you think about this series. If you don't forget, you've got we have a guest book to sign, so please come along and put a comment in the guest book, just say hello, whatever you want to say. Let us know how you're getting on with the series, what video you're up to. If you're stuck or anything like that, don't forget you can put it in the comments if you need any help. Other people watching this video, when they solve it, sometimes they put the solution in that video comments as well. If you did want to, some people like to buy a coffee, say thanks, you don't have to, but if that's you, you can go to coachshare.co.uk/coffee, but all the videos are free anyway, so don't worry about it. And I think that's a great place to end this video, and I will see you on the last video where we're going to do the search using Examine. So thanks for watching. Bye.